for a Nobel Peace Prize, had a mammoth meltdown on live television today. The so-called Israel-Iran ceasefire that United States President Donald Trump loudly claimed credit for failed spectacularly within hours of his utterances. What started off as what looks like a fixed match in the garb of Iran's revenge storm on America's military bases in the Middle East in Qatar last night ended with Trump declaring a truce pact through multiple posts on his social media platform, Truth Social. But when missiles rained from both sides and reality dawned, a furious and frustrated Trump dropped all pretenses and used the F word. Exasperated, he said, Iran and Israel don't know what they're doing. Well, the world now thinks it is the president of United States of America who doesn't quite know what he's doing and what he's bargained for, because the bombs are still flying, the sirens are still blaring, and the conflict in Middle East is messier than ever before. So as a cure eludes this conflict and uncertainty clouds the ceasefire, how long will the world endure? And in the meanwhile, President Trump continues to say he's unhappy with Iran, unhappy with Israel, happy with Iran 1 minute, unhappy with Israel, happy with the Iran 1 minute, and unhappy with Israel. Well, all of this is getting so mixed up, I can't even keep track.
You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
You're watching the News Hour at 9, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Joining me on the News Hour tonight is former American ambassador to India, Tim Roemer, a man who understands American politics like nothing else. He's also the ED at APCO. And Tim Roemer, how do you look at the situation in the world and the latest ceasefire, not a ceasefire, yes, a ceasefire, not a ceasefire between Iran and Israel, and the temperament of President Trump, who's actually used the F word to the media today?
Well, certainly America, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, is always proud of our military prowess and technological capabilities, the brave people that serve our country, and the opportunity or success maybe of this mission. So Democrats and Republicans, I think, can say, at least agree that the military performed very, very well. There are a lot of questions yet to be answered here. The first is, was this successful? Did the bunker busters do their job? Was this enrichment facility at Fordo and the other two, were they obliterated? Were they harmed? Did the Iranians have enough know-how and forethought to move the enriched uranium before these facilities were struck? We don't know yet. So that's a critical question. As you alluded to in your opening question, will this ceasefire hold? Will both Israel and Iran abide by that? And what are the response of the proxy forces, the Houthis, Hezbollah, and other proxy forces, that Iranian National Revolutionary Guard, a lot of folks that can act on their own at times and attack U.S. facilities and bases.
You avoided answering the question on President Trump's temperament. Is that deliberate?
No, I don't know that dropping the F-bomb when you're trying to be diplomatic and persuade either side of a particular position is ever effective. maybe it's more reflective of lack of sleep and frustration than anything else. It certainly is not very good for our young people in America or around the world watching TV. I hope he could be more articulate and precise in his wording than, dropping the F-bomb on international TV. We're more concerned about whether these bombs, the bunker busters, were effective, not hearing the F-bomb on TV.
So let me ask you, and let's go backwards a little bit. Israel, Iran, were going through their confrontation. America entered the war. Has it achieved its goals by entering the war, number one? And number two, when there was a strike back on the U.S. bases in Qatar yesterday, many people see it as a staged act. Does that actually lend credibility to the United States actually getting a new strategy together for the Middle East, for West Asia, and being the big power that it is, trying to broker peace between warring parties, India, Pakistan, Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Iran? Has it really stepped up the ladder on the credibility business?
Well, we won't know the answer to your first question, which is the most important one. What has this effort done and this strike done to enhance and increase our opportunity and capability to pull off implementing a brand new Middle East strategy? I think the picture of a brand new Middle East strategy is an attractive one, whether it's a Republican president or a Democratic president trying to pull that off, thinking outside the box, trying to figure out how Saudi Arabia might, in fact, positively influence this outcome and recognize Israel in the long term. How do you bring additional Middle Eastern countries into the Abraham Accords? Then to your question about the Iranian response, when they give the United States a 2-hour heads up window that they're going to strike a base, that certainly is a indication that we've seen many times before in war, that they want to de-escalate things. They don't want that effort to be successful. Then to the biggest question, again, that you touched on, what does this, conflict, and if it expands, mean for the Ukraine war? It means that the United States doesn't have the same kind of focus and intention and opportunity with resources and personnel and time to put pressure on Mr. Putin to try to get to some kind of ceasefire with Mr. Zelensky. You only have so many hours in the day, right? 24 hours. You can't expand that no matter how magical you are in life. We haven't found the answer to that yet. And, you're concentrating on the Ukraine war. You're concentrating on trying to make sure that Taiwan doesn't become a problem. You're concentrating on still the Middle East, the Gaza issue. And now you've got the Iranian issue. You've got terrorism that you have to keep an eye on. We know as our tried and true partner, India, on counterterrorism. We're a very key partner with India on that, whether that terrorism comes from Pakistan or whether it comes from Africa. We see in the sub-Saharan African region that terrorism is on the rise with al-Shabaab, and that can spread around the world to India or the United States very quickly. That's something we have to all keep our eye on.
So let me ask you, there are a whole lot of memes and questions coming up because President Trump has used this in the past against former President Obama. He said he strikes Iran, when he's losing the domestic space in terms of popularity, and those earlier statements are literally viral on social media. How does that reflect on President Trump, considering he was the man who didn't want wars, wanted to end on all wars, number one. Number two, there is a ceasefire that he talks about between Iran and Israel. Can Iran trust the United States enough? And in the same tenor, I ask you, because you had a close relationship with India, having Asim Munir, the army chief or the field marshal of Pakistan, over for lunch, does that really augur well for India to trust President Trump?
Well, to your first question, I think Mr. Trump treads on very thin ice when he tries something that may or may not work, like the bombing of these 3 facilities in Iran. I think he was elected, and I've spent a lot of time around American politics and was involved in the last presidential election. I believe President Trump won that election, and by the way, he won 7 swing states, by saying we're not going to get distracted by going into expanding more foreign wars. We're going to concentrate on prices going up for Americans, whether that's the price of eggs, whether that's the price of gasoline, whether that's the price of a home, whether that's the price of college education. He was saying in the campaign, I empathize. I really recognize what Americans are going through here, and that's going to be my primary focus. He risks losing people who elected him on that front, many independents who aren't traditional MAGA or Republicans, if he takes his eye off the ball of prices and inflation and the economy, which we know is always the main issue, whether you're in the United States or India. In India, it's the price of onions, it's the price of gasoline, of petrol. You know, you don't get away with that in democracies. You've got to pay attention to what your constituents are going through.
You didn't mention the question I asked about Asim Munir. How does he balance Pakistan and India?
Look, I think that, you know, in my term, when I served as U.S. ambassador in India, we moved the needle not just a little bit, but all the way over from any kind of hyphen in the Pakistan-India relationship to clearly saying to our friends in India, you are our partners. You are our strategic partners. You are our Quad partners. You are our intelligence partners. You are our counterterrorism partners. And we recognize the threat that hit you in the Mumbai attacks that came from Pakistan. On the same hand, we can also, knowing that, and I hope India knows that they are our trusted partner, India is confident enough to know that if we have lunch with somebody from Pakistan or in their government, and we're trying to talk through some of these issues that are critical to Pakistan's stability and their effort to fight internally, we do not want to see an unstable Pakistan on India's border, which would be a very serious security threat for India.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Tim Roemer, because we've all got our fingers and toes crossed about peace in the Middle East, about peace in this region, and about peace across the world, because, yes, economies are what we need to concentrate on. Domestic constituents, whether they are in the United States or in India, are looking for more economic progress than for the impediments that are sure to accompany wars across the world. We leave it at that. Thank you very much. These are interesting times that we live in, but we do hope, President Trump regains his humor sooner than later. Thank you very much.
And his vocabulary.
Absolutely.